Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and today we got a bit more of a preview for the next expansion of World of Warcraft, The War Within, which is adding a bunch of new hero specs to all of our classes. A new way for us to further improve on already existing playstyles, as each class in the game is getting access to 2 new sets of hero talents, which further modify our gameplay. So far, we've already seen a bit of a preview for some of the hero talents for classes such as the Evoker, the Warrior, and the Paladin, but this week we got ourselves a couple of new additions, like the Dark Ranger Hunter, the Oracle Priest, the Grove Guardian Druids, which have seen additional changes since their own unique reveal on the BlizzCon stage. So for today's video, I wanted to do a bit of a preview of my own for these hero talents and give you guys some of my own reactions as to some of the hero talents and playstyles coming with the War Within. And also really want to hear your thoughts down below. What are your initial impressions on some of the hero talents in this week's War Within update? But right before that, most of you guys watching the War Within videos on this channel are still not subscribed, so if you want to get more regular War Within updates, be sure to hit the button below, and let's get into the video. The first hero talent we have are the Keeper of the Grove Druids, which we've actually seen a little bit of from before, with the talent tree mock-up that's going to be all about the force of nature or summon tree ants abilities, so this one won't be all that new. However, we also do get a little bit of an access as to which hero specs or hero talents each of the different specs are going to play into. I would have loved to see Druid of the Claw or Wildstalker this week, because we kind of had a preview of Elune's Chosen and Keeper of the Grove, but the main ability of Keeper of the Grove is going to be Dream Surge. Force of Nature will grant you charges of Dream Burst. Wait, that's different. Causing the next Wrath of Starfire to explode on the target, dealing nature damage to nearby enemies. That is new. That wasn't like this during the initial preview, so there are changes in this one. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets, so soft cap already. Grove Guardians causes your next targeted heal to create 2 Dream Petals near your target. Healing up to 3 nearby allies, stacks up to 3 charges, which is kind of interesting, a little bit of AoE damage and healing from summoning your trees. And then we got passive options. On the left hand side, we start out with Tree Ants of the Moon, where Tree Ants will also use Moonfire every 6 seconds, which is going to make them quite deadly. In the middle, we have Expansiveness, which means your maximum mana is increased, but also your maximum star power, while on the right, Protective Grove. Your regrowth protects you, reducing damage take by 8%, while regrowth is active, which is actually a sizable defensive. Down below, we have a couple of choice options like on the left, with Power of Nature. Force of Nature Tree Ants no longer taunt the target, and will deal 20% increased damage, while your Grove Guardians will increase your healing and rejuve and efflorescence alive bloom by 5%, which is also sizable. Or it's a choice between Durability of Nature, where Force of Nature Tree Ants have a 50% increased health, so they're a little bit more deadlier, but they can still use the taunt mechanic. Whereas Grove Guardians, Nourish, and Swiftman also apply a minus Cenarian Ward to the target that will heal them over 8 seconds, which can be quite interesting. Down the middle, they have Cenarius' Might. Casting Star Surge or Starfall increases the damage of your next Star Surge or Starfall by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. This is basically Finality of Rogues, the talent Finality and Subtlety tree, just repurposed for the spec of Druid, or for the 2 specs of Druid. On the right, we have Grove Inspiration, where Wrath and Starfire damage can be increased by 12%, or Regrowth, Wild Growth, Swiftman healing increased by 6%, over Persistent Enchantments. Orbital Strike applies Stellar Flare for 20 seconds, and Primordial Arcanic Pulsar grants Celestial Alignment for 2 additional seconds, where Reforestation for Rester will grant him Tree of Life for 2 additional seconds, which is actually kind of an interesting mechanic to play around some of those major cooldowns. Bottom left side, we have Bounteous Bloom. Your Force of Nature Tree Ants generate 3 Astral Power every second, while your Grove Guardians healing is increased by 20%, or Early Spring, where Force of Nature cooldown is reduced by 10, and Grove Guardians cooldown is reduced by 3, so you can either get more value out of the primary talent that plays around the Grove Guardians or Force of Nature, either get more shorter cooldown or get more effectiveness. Force of Nature grants an additional stack of Dream Burst. Healing spells cast with Dream Surge generate additional Dream Petals. Cenarius' Might spell damage and healing increased by 5%. Control the Dream is time elapsed while your major abilities are available to be used is subtracted from your abilities cooldown after the next time you use it up to 5 seconds. Affects Nature Swiftness, Incarnation, Tree of Life, Force of Nature, Celestial Alignment, Convoke the Spirits. So there's some cooldown reduction mechanics that are being added to the class of Druid, which could be interesting. Blooming Infusion, every 5 regrows you cast. Your next Wrath, Starfire, and Tangleroot is instant and increases the damage it deals by 100%. Every 5 star surges or starfalls you cast will make an XP growth or entangle roots instant. That could be actually kind of interesting. A little bit of hybrid capability with a blooming infusion that could actually be really strong for PvP with that entangling root cast. Towards the bottom, we have Harmony of the Grove. Each of your Force of Nature treants increase your damage and spells deal by 3% while active, or each of your Grove Guardian increase your healing, so it's a very much passive, but this is very much a redefined talent hero tree that does allow you a little bit better control when it comes to your Grove Guardians and how they can augment your playstyle, which I think is a nice bit of revamp compared to the initial version that we saw, which a lot of players did find quite lacking. Alright, we got next up, the fan favorite, the Dark Ranger hero spectre, which a lot of people have been very excited for. Starting off, Dark Rangers will have Beast Mastery and Marksmanship Hunters as the 2 specs that you could pick between them in order to play the Dark Ranger. The other ones are going to be Pack Leader, which is Survival and Beast Mastery, or Sentinel, which is Marksmanship and Survival. At the very top, you have the ability of Black Arrow, making a big return. An active ability with a 30-second cooldown where you fire Black Arrow at your target, causing them to take shadow damage every 2 seconds for 16 seconds. Each time Black Arrow deals damage, you have a chance to reset the cooldown of Aim Shot or Barb Shot, so a bit of interactive off the bat. Towards the middle, we have ourselves Ranger's Finesse, where Aim Shot and Rapid Fire would deal 50% more damage, while Barb Shot and Kill Command would deal 50% additional damage for Beast Mastery. Dark Hounds, each time Black Arrow deals damage, you have a chance to manifest an Undead Hound to charge your target and deal shadow damage. I wonder if it's going to be a pet or just like a projectile. Death Shade, when you apply Black Arrow to the target, you gain the Death Blow or Hunter Spray effect depending on your spec, which is kind of cool that it interacts with talents. Towards the right side, we have Dark Chains. Disengage will cause the closest target next to you will chain the closest target to the ground, causing them to move 40% slower as until they move 8 yards away. That is kind of cool, very thematic, very Sylvanas-esque, but also I just kind of like the idea where you disengage, you also slow the target down by a little bit. Down the middle, we have Embrace the Shadows, where you heal for 50% of all shadow damage dealt to you by you or your pets, which is going to increase your overall survivability. Or Smokescreen, where Exhilaration grants you 3 seconds of Survival of the Fittest. Survival of the Fittest activates Exhilaration and 50% effectiveness, so both of those abilities grant you either defensive or a heal, which I actually like a lot. Hunters, I feel like out of all the classes, need a lot more survivability improvements, so this is a very interesting addition towards the overall kit. On the left-hand side, we have another choice between Dark Empowerment and Grave Reaper. With Dark Empowerment, Black Arrow resets the cooldown of an ability. Black Arrow resets the cooldown of just a random ability. You gain 15 focus, so this could be good for Marksman, and I guess it could be good for Beast Mastery as well, but it does mean that your rotation is going to be kind of, I guess, a lot more active every time you use the ability every 30 seconds. Grave Reaper. When the target afflicted by Black Arrow dies, the cooldown of Black Arrow is reduced by 12 seconds. Gonna be fantastic in M+ and add focus situations. Bottom right, we have another choice between Darkness Calls and Shadow Assassin. All shadow damage you and your pet's deal is increased by 10%. For Shadow Assassin, Kill Shot has a 50% chance to generate a charge of Aim Shot or Barb Shot when using a target afflicted by Black Arrow, which I think will make some of those Kill Shot focused talents a little bit stronger. Down the middle, we have Shadow Surge, where multi-shot hits a target afflicted by Black Arrow. A burst of shadow damage will erupt, doing moderate shadow damage to all enemies. Big fan of the AoE additional damage. Left-hand side, we have Intense Darkness, when True Shot or Call of the Wild is active, so this makes you play into Call of the Wild, which is quite popular right now. When either one also is active, Black Arrow deals 50% faster of its damage, which allows all the other abilities that work off of the procs and the damage of Black Arrow to, I guess, get more procs and more uptime. At the bottom, we have the capstone choice of Withering Fire. When Black Arrow resets the cooldown of Aim Shot or Barb Shot, a barrage of dark arrows strikes your target of shadow damage and increases the damage you and your pets deal to them by 10%. Very much Sylvanas-esque overall talent tree. A big fan of what they got working with it so far. Very interactive, that adds a new ability and has all of your entire kit play off of the ability. The Dark Ranger off the bat looks like a very exciting option, and I feel like this one actually looks very practical. I feel like you could imagine this be usable in dungeons and raids. Next up, we have the Frostfire Mage. The weirdness about Frostfire Mage, like if you do end up playing Frostfire Mage, are you a Frostfire Fire Mage or Frostfire Frost Mage now? It's going to be a little bit confusing with the naming of it all, but we can also see that mages will share Frostfire between Frost and Fire, which makes sense, Spellslinger between Frost and Arcane, and Sunfury between Fire and Arcane. First of all, you have the main ability of Frostfire Mastery. Your damage and fire spells generate 1 stack of Fire Mastery, and frost spells generate 1 stack of Frost Mastery. Fire Mastery increases your haste by 1%, Frost Mastery increases your mastery by 1%, stacking up to 8 times. Adding a stack does not refresh the duration, which is an interesting mechanic of the bat. Just stats are going to be strong. I don't find stats nearly as exciting generally, but stats themselves can be strong when it comes to overall endgame. Then you get the prime ability, which you don't get at the very beginning, is Frostfire Bolt, which is available for both Frost and Fire mages, which replaces your main primary ability with a 2-second cast. Launches a bolt of Frostfire at the enemy, dealing Frostfire damage, slowing them by 50%, causing an additional Frostfire damage over 8 seconds. Frostfire Bolt generates a stack of both Fire Mastery and Frost Mastery, which basically allows you to maintain the Frostfire Mastery altogether. But this is an ability that is given to both specs that deals both aspects of slowing damage from Frostbolt, but also damage over time from a Firebolt, which is interesting. Left hand side we have a choice, and they're different between Fire and Frost. Imbued Warding, which I think is going to be more defensive choice. Fire, Blazing Barrier also casts Ice Barrier, 25% effectiveness, also affects your Mass Barrier. Same thing for Frost, as you cast Ice Barrier, you get a Blazing Barrier for free. Or Meltdown. You melt slightly out of your Ice Block and Ice Cold, allowing you to move slowly during Ice Block, increasing your movement speed over time. Ice Block and Ice Cold trigger a Blast Wave when they end, a very interesting combination of weaving Frost and Fire, but also very much a Torghast ability being added as a talent option for mages going forward. On the right hand side, a choice node between Elemental Affinity and Flame and Frost. For Elemental Affinity, for Fire, cooldown of Frost spells is reduced by 10%. For Frost, cooldown of Fire spells is reduced, so great control that you can add between some of the CC available within the main class stream. Or Flame and Frost. For Fire, Cauterwise resets the cooldown of your Frost spells with a base cooldown shorter than 4 minutes when it activates. But for Frost, Cold Snap additional resets the cooldown of your Fire spells, so a little bit more utility between Frost and Fire, weaving them together. Frostfire Infusion. Your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to trigger an additional bolt of Frostfire, dealing Frostfire damage. This effect generates Frostfire Master when activated, so just additional ways to maintain both of your stats. In the middle, we have a choice node between Severe Temperature and Thermal Conditioning. With Severe, we have casting Frost and Fire spells, increases the damage of your next Frostfire Bolt by 6%, stacking up to 5 times. So this allows you to cut a built-up Ice Lances into a big Frostfire Bolt, or the same thing with Fire Blast and Pyroblast into a big Frostfire Bolt. So they really want you to weave that ability as part of your rotation as like a core concept. Or Thermal Conditioning, where Frostfire Bolt cast time is reduced by 10%, which could also be quite useful. On the left, Isothermic Core. Comet Storm that calls down a Meteor at 100% effectiveness onto your target, and Meteor calls down a Comet Storm at 150% effectiveness on your target, a nice reversal between the two elements fused together. Excess of Frost. For Fire, reaching maximum stacks of Frost Mastery, causing next Phoenix Flames to also cast an Ice Though at 200% effectiveness, great for crowd control, as well as damage. When you consume excess Frost, the cooldown of Meteor is reduced by 5 seconds, so make it want to build into certain talents. For Frost, reaching maximum stacks of Frost Mastery causes the next Flurry to also cast a Ice Nova at 200% effectiveness. When you consume excess Frost, the cooldown of Comet Storm is reduced, so you really want to play Comet Storm or Meteor for this one. Frostfire Empowerment. When your Frost and Fire spells have a chance to activate Frostfire Empowerment, causing your next Frostfire Bolt to always critically strike, explode for 80% of its damage to nearby enemies, and be instant cast. That's actually kind of awesome. I think that's really going to help complete that ability quite well. Excess Fire is another choice on the right hand side. Reaching maximum stacks of Fire Master causes the next Fire Blast to apply Living Bomb. Is this the Living Bomb talent? And for Frost, reaching maximum stacks Fire Master causes the next Ice Sense to apply Living Bomb. Yeah, so now you get Living Bomb as a Frost Mage, or Ice Nova as a Fire Mage. Towards the bottom we have Flash Freeze Burn. Frostfire Empowerment grants you maximum benefit of Frostfire Mastery and refreshes its duration. Activating Combustion or Icy Veins grants you Frostfire Empowerment, so this allows you to weave your abilities better into your full burst. It does mean that for mages you are going to have to hard cast a Frostfire Bolt to get some big value, unless you get a Frostfire Empowerment, which seems like it will be really easy once you pop a lot of your cooldowns, which I think helps complete this playstyle and really helps you play around some of the aspects of Fire and Frost that you can now weave together, which I can imagine could be good in Mythic Pluses, but also in PvP. The last one is going to be Oracle Priest, which is available for Holy and Discipline Priest with the talent tree mockup. For Priest, Arcana is going to be shared between Shadow and Holy, Oracle shared between Discipline and Holy, and Void Weaver shared between Disc and Shadow. Your first ability you get as a Oracle Priest will be Premonition, which replaces Power Infusion. Divine the future and gain access to a spell that gives you advantage against your fate. You either get Solace, which increases your target's healing received by 25% for 10 seconds, Insight, which increases your target's magic damage dealt by 10%, or Glory, which increases their physical damage dealt, which is actually quite interesting. So it seems that you are probably going to cycle through these buffs, either applying healing on a tank, damage on your friendly mage, or glory on your friendly warrior, which is more of like this buff support playstyle that I think fits a healer fairly well, but that's a lot more buffs that you have to manage, and now everybody's going to be clamoring for this improved version of Power Infusion. In the middle we have Preemptive Care. Increases the duration of atonements by 1 second, increases the duration of renew by 3 seconds. Left hand side we have Preventive Measures, increases the damage absorbed by Power Word Shield, and healing done by Prayer of Mending. On the right hand we have a choice slot between Waste No Time and Miraculous Recovery. With Waste No Time, Premonition causes your next power word Radiance, Heal, and Prayer of Healing to be instant cast and cost 15% less mana. But for Miraculous Recovery, reduces the cooldown of power word Life by 3 seconds and allows it to be usable on targets below 50% health, so a little bit of a higher threshold in order to start using the ability, which I think is kind of strong. Foreseen Circumstances will allow Pain Suppression to reduce damage taken by an additional 10%, which makes it a little bit stronger, while Guardian Spirit will last 2 seconds longer. In the middle we have another choice note of Prompt Deliverance, reduces the cooldown of Purify by 2 seconds, while Divine Feathers. When an ally walks through an Angelic Feather, they also grant 100% of its effect, which actually I kind of like that buff sharing aspect of Divine Feathers. I like the cooldown of Purify, I think it's going to be strong, but Divine Favors feels like that would be kind of interesting when it comes to increasing the overall mobility of your group or party. Power Word Shield applies 1 stack of Paramending to your target for free, while Paramending cast applies a Power Word Shield at 20% effectiveness, so it's a little bit of a mix between the two. Grand Reveal. When your Power Word Shield is fully absorbed or your Paramending heals gain a stack of Grand Reveal. At 150 stacks, you get a charge of Premonition, which is a primary ability, which means you want to spread shields on everybody as well as Prayer of Mendings in order to get more charges of Premonition. How many charges does Premonition have? It says 1 minute cooldown, but it doesn't really say charges. Perfect Vision is a choice note between versatile divinations. Either reduce the cooldown of Premonition by 10 seconds, or Premonition can now trigger a Brilliance and Urgency effect. With Brilliance, you either restore 5% of your target's maximum mana, or Urgency will increase your target's haste by 12% for 10 seconds, only making the whole playstyle of Power Word Infusion Premonition playstyle even stronger. Divine Providence is another choice between Fate Bender. With Divine, you get increased duration to your Premonition effect by 2 seconds, or Premonition's effect is increased by 30% if the Divine spell is different than the previous Premonition. Interesting. So does this mean that potentially you have different types of Premonition? You can play Solace, Insight, and Glory on everybody? Or is it just cycle? I'm not exactly sure if this ability will cycle or not, but if you can control it, the Fate Bender will be easy to control. If it's not, then there will be a little bit of RNG when Fate Bender gets new value. At the bottom, you have Clairvoyance. Premonition has a low chance to grant you Clairvoyance, which will grant your target and 2 nearby allies all the effects of Premonition at 100% effectiveness, which could be strong for certain classes that do a mix of magic damage as well as physical damage, but also get additional healing could also be very strong. So it looks like priests are going to heavily lean into Power Word Infusion or Power Infusion playstyle, just replacing it with Premonition, where you can provide your allies with additional buffs. This could be interesting, and I think for a Healy support role, it makes sense to provide additional buffs to your allies to make them stronger, for them to do more damage, or to increase the survivability. And I think what they've got going on with some of the Power Word stuff, with shields as well as Prayer of Mending, healing, and then those kind of interactions on this build, on this spec, I think it actually could work out together pretty well. But I do wonder how this whole buff mechanic and empowering your allies, how that'll affect the raid environment overall, as more players are clamoring for different buffs constantly. We already have Augmentation Evoker, which already buffs your allies, but now it looks like priests are going to be doing the same with Premonition if they do end up picking up the Oracle subspec. But for now, this is going to be all of my initial impressions of the new hero talents on the table. Very excited about some of the changes arriving. Very interesting to see how they're not all that passive, with the likes of Lightsmith Paladin, the Dark Ranger, and even Frostfire Mage, how they'll grant you an additional ability or even change one of your core skills in a very different way. And it gets me very excited to see what are some of the other updates on the table for classes such as Rogues, and even warlocks, which are some of the ones we haven't seen a single preview for so far. And there's still so many more hero towns for us to take a look at, because we've only got ourselves a taste of what is to come in the next expansion, which we should be seeing an alpha for hopefully sometime soon. As per usual, I want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video and hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your first initial impressions of some of the hero towns? Also check the Discord to find the community Discord channel where we can talk about all these changes with all the other members, and that's probably the best place to reach out to me if you have any ideas for me, or you want to tell me what you think about this video directly, or just hang out with the rest of the community. Thank you all so much for watching. I do hope all of you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll see all of you in the next one.